sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen. Ma'am, we've arrested him. Justice will be served.
The betrayal exploded without warning. A trusted friend had taken the money, vanished, and left behind only suspicion and pain. What should have been a straightforward land deal had turned into a storm of deceit. The silence after days of unanswered calls carried more weight than words ever could. Behind the curtain of friendship, greed had planted its seed, and now the fruit was violence. Kenneth, 34 years old, was a real estate agent in Atlanta. He had built his career on connections and trust, linking buyers and sellers across the city. Known among his colleagues as dependable, he lived with his wife and their young son in Decatur. He was respected, not rich, but hard-working enough to provide comfort for his family. Then there was Michael, 35 years old, Kenneth's childhood friend. They had grown up on the same street in South Atlanta, sharing food, laughter, and dreams. But life had shaped them differently. While Kenneth pursued real estate, Michael drifted between small hustles. He had a reputation for quick money schemes, but Kenneth always stood by him, convinced that his friend's heart was still good. The buyer, Henry, was 40 years old, a businessman from Marietta who wanted to invest in land in Atlanta. He trusted Kenneth because the agent had helped him before. Henry paid the agreed sum for a piece of land that Michael claimed to own. But when the deal reached the final stage, Michael said he did not have the documents with him. Because Kenneth vouched for Michael, Henry agreed to let Michael go fetch the papers. That was the moment everything shifted. Days passed, then weeks. Michael stopped answering calls. Excuses gave way to silence. Kenneth became the target of Henry's frustration. The buyer wanted either his land or his money. Kenneth tried to fix the mess. He believed his friend would come around. When Michael finally appeared, he was calm, too calm. He asked Kenneth to meet him privately, promising to settle the matter. Kenneth agreed. He still trusted him, even though every sign warned him otherwise. But that decision was fatal. Michael did not come to make peace. He came to silence the one person who could expose him. When Kenneth arrived, he was ambushed. Michael took the remaining money and ended his friend's life in cold betrayal. Back in Decatur, Kenneth's wife, Anita, 30 years old, a school teacher and mother of their child, noticed his absence. At first, she thought he was working late, but when night stretched into dawn, fear replaced patience. She called, sent messages, and prayed for his return. What she received instead was a text message from her husband's phone, claiming he was away on urgent business. The tone of the message was wrong. Anita knew her husband's words. These were not his. Her report to the police sparked an investigation. Detectives followed the faint trail left behind. They traced calls, examined bank alerts, and questioned witnesses. Then, a farmer near Douglasville told them about a strange incident. He said he heard a gunshot one night, followed by the sight of a suspicious car leaving the area. He remembered the license plate. The car was traced. It belonged to Michael, and by then, Michael was already planning his escape. The police began a desperate hunt. They monitored transport hubs, checked hotels, and scanned highways. Each clue drew them closer. Finally, their search narrowed to the airport. Michael was there, not alone, but with his girlfriend, Sandra, 27 years old, who had lured Kenneth to the meeting place. She was a hairdresser in East Point, known by neighbors as lively but secretive. Together, they thought they could outsmart everyone. But justice was waiting. Officers in plain clothes blend with the crowd. The announcement of flights echoes overhead. Michael and Sandra roll their suitcases forward, but before they can reach the checkpoint, officers close in. A sharp command cuts through the air. Hands grab their arms, and the chase ends. Michael's arrest marked the turning point. The evidence was overwhelming. His greed had destroyed a lifelong friendship, a marriage, and a family's peace. Kenneth was gone, leaving Anita and their son in tears. But how could a friend betray someone who trusted him so deeply? How far can greed push a man to cross the line of humanity? And what does justice really mean when a life is already lost? The airport arrest shocked everyone who knew Michael. A man once considered loyal had turned into the face of betrayal. His calm face during interrogation carried no trace of regret. Sandra sat beside him, her eyes darting nervously, aware that her role in the crime had been exposed. Detectives pieced the case together. They pulled bank records, messages, and eyewitness accounts. The suspicious text sent from Kenneth's phone to his wife was analyzed. It was written in a style different from Kenneth's usual short and polite words. Investigators confirmed it was a cover-up attempt by Michael. Anita, broken but determined, attended every police briefing. She wanted answers. She wanted to know why her husband had trusted a friend who planned his death. The grief in her eyes carried more weight than any evidence file on the table. The courtroom later became the stage where truth unfolded. The prosecution built its case with careful precision. They showed how Michael collected the buyer's money, lied about documents, and plotted his escape. Sandra's involvement was revealed too. She had called Kenneth, urging him to meet Michael that evening, pretending it was for peace. Her phone records tied her directly to the plan. Henry, the buyer, testified as well. He explained how Kenneth tried to fix the deal even when it was not his fault. He said Kenneth never doubted Michael until the very end. The judge listened, the jury scribbled notes, and the weight of betrayal filled the room. Anita, sitting in the courtroom, clutching a picture of Kenneth. Her lips tremble as she watches Michael enter the dock. There is no handshake, no glance of remorse, only silence between two families once connected by friendship. The trial dragged for weeks. Witness after witness described Kenneth's honesty and Michael's deception. Sandra's lawyer tried to argue that she was misled, but the evidence showed she played an active role. Her messages to Michael before and after the crime painted her as a willing partner. In the end, the verdict was clear. Michael was found guilty of murder, fraud, and attempted escape. Sandra was convicted as an accomplice. The sentence carried the weight of justice, but it could not bring Kenneth back. Anita stood outside the court when it was over. Reporters surrounded her, asking if she felt justice had been served. Her voice was steady but heavy with sorrow. She said no punishment could heal the wound her son would carry for life. She said Kenneth trusted too much, and that trust had cost him everything. The case spread quickly through Atlanta's media. It was retold on radio, television, and YouTube. People debated how greed could destroy friendships built over decades. Some asked if Kenneth should have seen the signs earlier. Others wondered how Sandra could join such a plan. Michael, sitting in a prison cell, staring at the wall. His face is blank, but his silence screams louder than any confession. The sound of a closing metal door echoes, marking the end of freedom for a man who destroyed friendship with greed. So in the end, a childhood bond was buried under betrayal. A wife was a widow. A child lost his father. And a man who thought he could outsmart the system found himself chained by his own actions. But what would you have done in Kenneth's place? Would you have trusted Michael until the very end, or walked away the moment money disappeared? And can betrayal ever be predicted before it strikes? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.